you so much, Romal and Nidhi. It's a pleasure to be here, and all the more pleasure because I think I see myself as a passionate logistics practitioner. And before I share the screen and everything, I just want to say that I wanted this to be sort of a plug. I wanted my talk to be sort of a plug into this the tech heavy world that we all live in these days, right? And I wanted us to take a moment, step back, and appreciate the silent work that goes on in the background. And there are humans, processes, products that are making each of our lives so very efficient. And there are professional services in place that make our lives the way it is today, right? The way they are today. So without further ado, let me share my presentation that I had for you today. Just give me a quick yes if you can see it.
Yes, Atul.
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'll be talking about the logistics as a service and some of the trends and opportunities that we are noticing in this space. And before we begin, some famous words from the famous Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu. And he happens to say that the line between disorder and order lies in logistics. And that's not the wisdom from 2022, that's ancient wisdom, right? So it's something that has always been there. It's something that has always silently, worked in the background somewhere without us having to notice it. But if I have to put this perspective in my own words, then I would rather say that logistics now is not in the shadows anymore. It is the wind to the sails. It is no longer the silent hustler in the background. It is the method to the madness. Now, starting our talk, what does the service here exactly refer to? What are we talking of when we say logistics as a service, right? And what are some of the trends and opportunities in this space? And I'm mindful that this is a small talk, so I will try not to make it sound academic. But at any point in time, if there is something that you don't understand, please, I'll be happy to take questions. All right, so just to get some definitions out of the way, right? What does the service here refer to? So in the context of logistics, a service refers to a professional third-party provider to manage an organization's transportation, distribution, and warehousing needs, right? And I realized that in the context of Converge, in the context of so many tech themes as a service, logistics as a service still remains a very day-to-day operational thing that goes on in the background, right? But there are these third-party service providers that can help manage some of these various needs that whether a manufacturer has or a retailer has or a distributor has. And some of the names might sound very familiar to you, most of the attendees. So some of the big names like Maersk, DHL, Delivery, DSV, DB Schenker, and so on. These are the third-party logistics providers that I'm referring to when I say logistics as a service, right? And their world looks a lot different from the people demanding these services. So imagine yourself that you are sitting at a home, ordering stuff, twiddling with your thumb on the apps, and then you get something delivered to your house. And it's not just the hyper-local environment where you expect something in maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but then it's also the larger global trade, the imports and exports of the world that are constantly happening. The ships are constantly moving, the ports are constantly running, and so on, right? So it's a culmination of the big and the small worlds together, the global trade and the hyper local trade coming together when I refer to logistics as a service, right? Some of these players are big enough, they are asset heavy. Some of them are smaller players, they are more nimble, they can adjust themselves quicker to market needs, and they continue to be asset light in that sense, right? Now, I won't delve a lot into their workings and what they do and so on, but I would like to talk about some of the trends and opportunities that we are seeing for these companies, these service companies, to make a mark and to catch up with the rest of the world, right? And in that moment, think about some of the recent events that have shaped up demand for the whole world, right? Of course, pandemic is one. Global geopolitical scenarios are another. Supply chain disruptions have played a big role in defining sort of what the customers have come to need. There is that sort of accelerated demand for delivery speeds. People are wanting stuff faster. They want to be relieved of their cognitive load of having to make a decision, having to think about what do I need in the grocery in the next week. I just want it now. But then I will also talk about some of the things that sound contradictory to me when we talk about sustainability in logistics, as well as agile logistics or faster logistics. Right. So in no particular order, I'll be talking of these trends and opportunities. So the number one on my list is the setting up of micro fulfillment centers. So this is basically the new age trend that you might have observed when everybody's trying to give you or sell you groceries in 10 minutes, right? How did you do it? Do they pressurize delivery boys to drive faster? No, that's not it. Then how is it that they are able to deliver it to you at such a lightning speed? And the answer is micro fulfillment centers, right? So think of them as stores where no customer walks in and shops. These are places to hold inventory closer to the places of demand. So when you when you put these stocking areas closer to demand, what you have is a micro fulfillment center, and that is a service that we are increasingly seeing owing to the accelerated delivery promises from the pandemic. Talking of the market opportunity, right, of micro fulfillment services, there is a clear revenue potential of more than $1.5 billion by 2030, with the potential of this demand expected to grow by 30 times in the next 8 years on a base of 2021, right? And if I were to say whether or not these third-party logistics companies are prepared for it, then I would say that the traditional ones with asset-heavy models, they're not really there. And there is this whole ecosystem of the traditional players, the asset-heavy players, in conjunction with new age players, with startups who are trying to solve this problem together. The advantage of traditional service provider in this area is the experience with optimization. The advantage the startups have in this space is the focus on tech and the focus on optimizing each and every process along the way. So we are seeing this trend of this whole ecosystem coming together, paving way for the trend of micro fulfillment services, micro fulfillment centers, catering to a faster demand, catering to a whole new set of statistical algorithms to be able to accurately forecast demand, right? And recently, Zomato announced that they're going to start 10-minute food delivery, which means that your food is starting to get cooked even before you think about ordering it, right? This is the level where it is going. Now, hold that thought for a moment, right? While this all sounds very jazzy, very new, very fancy schmancy, but there is also a angle around sustainability and green logistics. Now, this is the contradictory angle that I was talking about a while earlier. When companies, when retailers, when any organization tries to push you demand faster, it comes at the very cost of sustainability. Now, there is only so much we can do to optimize our logistics, right? And logistics, the thing about logistics is that it works in certain constraints. You have a limited warehouse space, you have a limited capacity, you only own a limited number of trucks, there is only a demand from a few pin codes, and so on and so forth, right? And to be able to work with that theory of constraints, it is important that we efficiently and optimizably manage our logistics at every step. Now, according to National Retail Federation in US study, that it says nearly 60% of the shoppers in 2021, they wanted to shop more sustainably. But then if you look at point above, which is around the setting up of MFCs, then this is sort of contradictory, because then you're setting up more and more warehouses, you are spending more and more on the energy being used in the warehouses, and so on and so forth, right? Now, unless you stop the energy usage in some of the other assets that you're using, I don't see this going on a path of sustainability, to be honest. But hold that thought for a moment, hold that contradictory thought for a moment. If we just focus on the sustainability and green logistics, there is a lot that is happening in this space, right? According to an NTT research, also in collaboration with Penn State University, and in this survey, they found that major third-party logistics providers, 65% of them felt that their customers' environmental sustainability and governance programs are further ahead of their programs, of their own programs, which means that there is a lot of scope for them to catch up with what their customers are demanding, and also what their customers are demanding. People like you and me, we are demanding, plastic-free packaging. We are demanding paper-based packaging or compostable products packaging. But then, are the third-party logistics providers equipped enough? Are they ready enough to fulfill that demand? And the data is in front of you. It's only 65%. Given the focus, I would expect more and more, service providers to join this, join hands in this, and make sure that when they are catering to the needs of the customers and their customers, sustainability, if not this number two, should be the number one thing on their agenda. Also, there is a lot of discussion around greener fuels such as hydrogen fuels, e-methanol, and India's finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, she made a special mention of this in the 2021 budget. And the hypothesis is that hydrogen fuels, cleaner fuels will drive the greener logistics in the coming future, right? And there is a strategic focus on this now, because I think the world has had enough of the carbon footprint talk, and people are getting down to the brass tacks and doing something about it, which is a great thing. However, as customers, what I want to where I want to pique your interest is also the fact that more often than not, we as customers don't really understand what happens in the background, right? So I would say that when we talk of faster delivery, when we talk of micro fulfillment centers being set up, when we talk of more and more energy being consumed by all these new methods of modes of delivery, think for a moment about the sustainability aspects as well, right? And somewhere or the other, since this is a new trend, in my view, this will take some time to shape up and provide a way for the future on how this will really all come together in the next few years. All right, then another trend that we have seen from some time in the past is the demand around real-time visibility and exceptions management, right? And according to this Penn State research, there is a long way to go. Only 50% of the third-party logistics companies are saying that they can provide real-time data to the clients. Now, this is very similar to the MFC example above, right? The MFC case above, where I said that there is this whole ecosystem coming together to solve problems for each other. And you're seeing a lot of startups, you're seeing a lot of visibility aggregators coming in this space and solving these problems for not just the retailers themselves, but also for the third-party logistics themselves. So there is indeed a long way to go. And to be really honest, as an industry practitioner, I can tell you that when the third-party logistics company says that that only 53% they are saying they are ready, I can say that that number is probably only 20%. There is a long way to go to catch up in this space. Last but not the least, I would say that warehouse automation and robotics is one of the key drivers to make the logistics operations more and more efficient, more optimized. And this is expected to be a 30 billion market opportunity by 2026, with a potential cost savings of savings in labor costs, savings in spatial costs. So the amount of space that you use in a warehouse can be optimized when you use automation, right? Now, a lot of opportunities there. And I realize that I'm towards the end of the talk. So maybe to quickly conclude on my little quote there, I would say that more than anything else, logistics happens to be a competitive advantage, right? And we will only see this space becoming more and more on the foreground in the coming future. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take over the chat.